Hello, everybody. My name's James, and for the benefit of those listening on the audio, you're listening to the breakfast stream. It's just gone 10 past 11. Sorry for my lateness this morning on Friday, the 9th of December, and we're looking forward to the World Cup quarterfinals over the next half hour or so. I'll be covering questions from the YouTube community on whatever they would like. Let's get into the questions. Hola Stamos says, good morning. Good morning, Hola. Hola is from Croatia. Wish you the best of luck today, mate. Neil Thompson says, good morning. I think Neil's from England. I wish you good luck for tomorrow, mate. Jay Greenham says, morning, James. What are your transfer and captaincy plans for Sky Fantasy Football this round? I'm 43rd at the moment, so I'm not sure whether to go with ownership or differential. Balance between the two would be my recommendation. In terms of myself, I'm likely to do nothing today. I've got 4 Brazilians and 4 Argentinians. The only 2 Brazilians, I wouldn't want to add any more Argentina. The only 2 Brazilians I'd consider adding are Vinicius Jr., who I can't get to, or Danilo. Wouldn't be interested in adding anything else. So I'm likely to wait till tomorrow. Get a combination of stuff if Brazil and Argentina both win today. And that'll probably be something like Pepe, Dembele and Bellingham. Or if one of the 2 favourites, Brazil or Argentina, lose today, then I can move out big hitters. So I've got Neymar, Richarlison, Marquinhos and Thiago Silva from Brazil. I've got Martinez, Otamendi, Enzo Fernandez and Messi from Argentina. I don't really know what I do to add extra to that today, personally. So I think it's circumstantial. Our patrons were having a really good conversation yesterday about strategy ideas, and I think it's circumstantial and what's best for people individually. I like, as discussed with Angus on Wednesday, that the ownership amongst Portuguese players is really low. It's arguably going to work out better for me if one of Brazil or Argentina lose, ironically. Because everybody's going to be in a state of problems. So the best thing for me, arguably, would be if Brazil lost today, which, sorry, Holla, I'm not expecting. I wouldn't overly be surprised if Argentina went out, though. And then that really, because of the Messi money, really allows me to open up. I could go sort of treble Portuguese defensive tomorrow, for example, which currently I can't do. I can't justify it. If Brazil and Argentina both win tomorrow and then play each other on Tuesday, I can't really justify it. So it'd be about me trying to get in with something vaguely differential on the captaincy tomorrow, something like Dembele, for example. So it's circumstantial. I think for you, Jay, in 43rd, you're looking for a balance between the two. And I would go probably Brazil defensive on the captaincy today. Because sort of combined ownership, and there'll be a lot of people have 2, admittedly. Some will have none, but will add today, possibly. So Thiago Silva and Marquinhos, both around about 40% ownership. I'd probably go for one of them 2 today on the captaincy. Make a judgment call where you stand after today for tomorrow. But I think tomorrow, I'd want to go safe-ish today, Portugal tomorrow. That would be my take. Nikki Kassam says, sup gangster, thinking of England defensive triple up tomorrow to really swing against that bot bloke. How many transfers do you get for semis, finals? It depends what game you're playing, Nikki. For Sky, you get 3 transfers in this round. For the FIFA game, maybe 5. But I don't understand other transfers. I've not been trying to play the system or anything. I'm about 1,000 in the FIFA game, I'm not doing too badly. But I've not been trying to play the system on it or anything. I made some transfers on Tuesday afternoon when Spain went out in preparation to make sure I had a full complement for this round of matches. And we'll probably do the same tomorrow if Argentina or Brazil go out. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to even use them, I don't think. I'm certainly not, I've got England players, I'm going to be making transfers before the end of the England game Saturday night. No, I'm not. I'm going to be in the pub watching the football. I'm not best to ask for the FIFA game. Other formats really vary, Nikki. PS says, thank you for everything you do and Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. Got me thinking about Macaulay Culkin and Home Alone now. Sam Baxendale says, morning, James. What's your beer plan for tomorrow? How many before kickoff? How many is too many during the game? Don't want to be so pissed that you forget the game. What do you drink after beer? I'm a top shelf guy, so I'll go for the vodka. But I don't do that much anymore, to be honest. I'm just going to meet up with my dad tomorrow by the looks of it. So my plan tomorrow is to get out early. I'll be going down the pub about 2:30ish, 3:00. And it will probably be non-alcoholic beer till 6. That's the plan. Have something to eat in the pub. Can't be drinking at that time. It's too early. I also can't be walking in the pub at 6:00 because I'd have to go somewhere quieter than where I want to go. So I've got to go in relatively early, but I can't be drinking at that time. Back in the day, when I was young 20s, I'd have just gone in the pub at R2 and started drinking at R2. I can't do that anymore because I won't see the game. So once you hit the third, it doesn't take a lot. So I always used to use this example when I watched Tottenham in the pub, where I could have 4 beers and be hammered. But if I was just out regularly on a Friday night, I'll have 6 or 7, and I won't be as bad as what the 4 during Tottenham, because it's the adrenaline, the emotion that goes with it, gets you going worse and quicker, and you will feel that if you're English during the game tomorrow night. So once you hit past 3, you're going to feel it if you're really into the game. Once you go past 4, you're in trouble, depending on who you are, what you're drinking as well. Low percentage beers is the recommendation as well. And remember to drink sensibly. Lee Jackson says, assuming Nico is there. Nico, are you here? Yeah, he says, of course. Who would you rather Portugal play in the semi, England or France? Assuming if you beat Morocco. He said rather play England. It's going to be fun here next week if we both win tomorrow. You might be out of a fucking job next week. Asil Salem says, hi James, thoughts on Morocco? Do you think they can go all the way to the final? Can they? Of course. Of course. And it would be an incredible story if they do so. It sounds like Naya Fagued's out, isn't it? I think the problem is the Spain game, emotionally and physically, I think will have taken so much out of them, coupled with Portugal hitting form at the right time and looking so impressive on Tuesday night, means I find it very difficult to believe that Morocco will beat Portugal. Can they? Yes, absolutely. I mean, look, they've only conceded 1 goal in the tournament, and that was an own goal, which is why I think Portugal need to try and play with the fluidity that they played with on Tuesday night, and if they do, I think they'll win. Could I see... Is it possible for Morocco to beat Portugal and then one of England and France as well? Of course, it's football. It's 11 v 11. But I think realistically, it's extremely unlikely. I think if Morocco make the semi-finals, they'll obviously be the first African nation to do that. And I think if you'd have said to a Moroccan, with all due respect, pre-tournament, you'll make the semi-finals, they would have treated that like almost winning the trophy. It will be so historic if they beat Portugal on Sunday and become that first team. Because there's been so many on the edge, right? Ghana 2010, Senegal 2002, Cameroon 1990. Particularly Ghana 2010. I think a lot of us thought that they would beat Uruguay and do it. So, wish them well. And can they? Yes. I just think it's possibly going to be a step too far, this one. Asil says, what are you most looking forward to in today's games? I mean, the game tonight, me and Suj are doing a watch-along on Patreon for the Croatia-Brazil game. I am more looking forward to the game tonight. I think Netherlands-Argentina stirs up memories of classic World Cup games. Obviously, there was the final in 1978, which I wasn't alive for, but have seen back. And obviously, so many of us obviously remember Bergkamp's goal in the brilliant quarterfinal in Marseille in 1998. So I think it feels like a classic fixture that stirs up emotions. And also, neither are favourites for the tournament, but both capable. Both very, very capable. And I think it's quite an even contest. I've actually predicted it to be 0-0, but I am looking forward to that tonight. I think I'm fascinated to see what Argentina are going to do tactically. Because obviously they changed around the 55th minute mark against Australia to go to a back 3. Whether that's going to stick or whether they'll start again with a back 4. Holland, or rather the Netherlands, they're unique. I can never get out of the habit of saying Holland, sorry. The Netherlands are unique in the fact they're the one team we know will play a back 3. Everyone else is kind of capable of switching, but unlikely to do so. Was Argentina's switch in part preparation for the Netherlands? he did seem to get more out of Messi when they switched as well. So I'm fascinated to see the tactical aspect from Argentina tonight. Sil also says, can you explain how Portugal smashed a tough team like Switzerland? Tough calls from the manager to drop both Ronaldo and Cancelo. Genius or lucky? Nico, fortunately, has left the room. But I've been saying to him pre-tournament, like, if you drop Ronaldo, I'm scared of you. It's literally what I've been saying to him before the tournament started. And I think they've just become a team that had a chance of winning to a team that is extremely capable of winning the whole competition. I think it's that big for them. You only just have to look at the fluidity of how they played. I think with Switzerland, and I said this in a little piece where I was reviewing the goals for our advanced tier patrons on Wednesday, that perhaps with Switzerland, when you reflect on the game I watched against Serbia last Friday as well, which is one of the better group games that I watched, that perhaps this Switzerland are tough to beat idea has gone. And maybe they've just become a more typical forward-thinking European nation actually suffered actually for being a little bit too brave and not sitting in and making the game more difficult for Portugal. That said, the first goal comes from absolutely nothing. And then the second goal is a real mistake where Fernandes, who was playing on the right side for Switzerland, I don't know if he was meant to do a man marking job or a blocking job on Pepe, but he failed to do either of the two, one of the two jobs he'd have been designated. And then suddenly it's 2-0 and you're chasing against a team that is superior to you. And life becomes very, very difficult from there. But I think perhaps Switzerland were more offensive than we thought they would be. And the early goals certainly helped to the fact that the game opened up. In the group stage, perhaps arguably you take the beating and wait for another day because goal difference could be important, for example. So, but great from Portugal. Switzerland, Switzerland and Serbia were the two teams I spoke about in pre-tournament, saying, look, they could be dark horses, not necessarily to go all the way, but I could see a semi-final in one of the two of them. And pre-game, I thought Switzerland would probably take Portugal to extra time, actually. But I think maybe we all perhaps, I would say misunderstood, perhaps misrepresented what we thought Switzerland may be, perhaps. FPL Rover says, how would you treat Portuguese attackers in fantasy? Go heavy on them, given Moroccan defensive injuries, or go easy on them, given Moroccan defensive strengths? I think what you have to do as well is, I mean, there's a balance. I don't think Portugal are going to win 4-5-0, but I think, like I've predicted the game to be 2-0. What you also got to ask yourself, though, if you go, I don't know, and this is subject to the format, but let's say you go Gonçalo Ramos, you go João Felix, you go Bruno Fernandes, for example. How do you feel having them players then for the game against France or England in the semi-final? And I think you have to weight some of that into your thinking. Do you feel quite so good about it? So if you're getting it, it's not necessarily for the one game. It's possibly for two more games as well. So just factor in your mind how you feel about that. And it could really be that the Switzerland game was just a complete one-off. It really could be. Gary Reza says, morning, mate. Random question. Do you like mince pies? Personally, absolutely love them. No. I don't know what that's all about, really. I don't even think Santa likes them. Benedict Troy says, morning, James. Given the result of England-France is quite uncertain, is it better to transfer in a Portuguese player instead of Mbappe tomorrow in Sky? It's uncertain, but you can have a preference. I agree that it's uncertain. Is it better? Again, kind of like answering the earlier question, it's very circumstantial, isn't it? What do you actually want? That's the thing, and this is always a thing in latter parts of a general, let's say even say an FPL season. So you can ask someone a question, you can ask me a question, it's game week, let's say it's game week 36, basically what it is, right? It's game week 36 and you ask me a question, it's fine, I can say, yeah, for this week, probably, yeah, the Portuguese. But would you rather have Mbappe over Bruno Fernandes for all of the remaining 3 games if France were to win, for example? Maybe the answer is yes. But perhaps you're in a state where you need differentials. Therefore, it would not be Mbappe over a Portuguese differential. So it's where are you at? What do you want? What are you trying to achieve? He's kind of, I don't think it's set to say, yes, it's better to have a Portuguese player. I think everybody is circumstantial about what they want. I can't finish first in Sky. I do think I still have a glimmer in mini leagues. And I have to factor that into my thinking a little bit because there's potentially cash in that for me if I get it right. So it's a balancing act for me rather than just going right 100% differential, for example. And also my circumstance, I think is better to not make a transfer today in Sky. Whereas I think if you're sitting there with just Marquinhos and Thiago Silva, I think you should probably buy another Brazilian player today. I think you should buy one of the forward players, whether that's Vinicius, Richarlison, Neymar, down to your preference. So I think it's circumstantial of what you have, what you can get to. Salman Andrew says, do you think Premier League players that reach the latter stage of the World Cup will be rested on Boxing Day, or is a week long enough to recover? So I think me and Suj will talk about this quite a bit, hopefully on Monday's podcast. Once we know who the final four is, then we can, will Kane be back or not? You know, if England lose to France on Saturday, then there's every chance, I think, that 9 days later, every chance Harry Kane will play against Brentford. If England, I say every chance, in fact, it's not 9 days later, it's more than that. It's 16 days later, isn't it? He'll definitely play against Brentford. If England get through to the final, doubtful, I think. Now, obviously, once we know the last four, we can know who's playing up to the weekend. The general consensus seems to be, and I think you'll hear more of this over the next 3-4 days or so, the general feeling is that most players are being given a week off after the World Cup, generally speaking. So I'll give you an example of Tottenham playing a friendly at 1 o'clock today against Mouthwatering. Yes, I will be watching. It's behind closed doors, otherwise I'd have been at the training ground if they'd let me go. But Heung-min Son lost to Brazil on Monday, wasn't it, right? So I think the expectation is that he's probably going to be back with Tottenham either next Monday or next Tuesday. I think that's probably the expectation. So if a team's got to the final, which is obviously on the Sunday, and the Premier League restarts 8 days later, do we expect them to play? I think it's even more so for the team that wins, right? The team that wins has every right to have a party, particularly if it is, someone like Brazil or something. They're going to go and party for a week. I imagine Argentina would be the same, for example. And I think that they'd have every right to do so. So I think the results over the weekend are really important. I think this is also why, loosely speaking, it's really not been worth thinking about FPL. I did a poll last night and said which Manchester United defender will get eliminated first. Because United's starting back four of Dalot, Martinez, Varane and Shaw all still in the tournament. And 3 of them, one of them's definitely going out, Shaw or Varane, but 3 of them could be going right to the end. Manchester United have brilliant fixtures when we resume. But what's the point of even thinking about which defensive one I'm going to have right now? Dalot, we spoke about a lot prior to the World Cup. Brilliant option. He's had his 5th yellow card. But if Portugal win the World Cup, do I want to start with him? I'm not sure. So we'll discuss more on Monday, but I think the general consensus seems to be most players, and this won't be for everyone, but most players are probably going to be given a week off once from the moment that their team is eliminated from the World Cup. Asil says, Mourinho, Guardiola, Klopp, Ancelotti, Zidane, which manager, if managed his national team, could win the next Euros with the current generation? I don't think you could arguably make a case for all of them, to be honest. As much as I've been critical of Mourinho, I've long held the belief that put him in a major tournament for Portugal, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins something, because I think the format is so suited to the way that he wants his teams to play. And they've still got good technical players, Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, and good young players coming through now. And likes not just of, say, Ramos, but Rafael Leao is an obviously extremely talented player who I think has been underutilised in this tournament. Germany will produce new young players. Klopp needs an energetic team. So I think you'd be removing players like Thomas Muller, for example. Italy, we know from last summer, actually, is a really good team. And how they've managed to balls up qualifying for the World Cup twice, no one knows. Guardiola would probably give Spain more tactical variety on top of the clear ball domination that even the young kids like Pedri and Gavi have. And you or I could manage France with Kylian Mbappe and have a chance to win the tournament. And Zidane has obviously done it at the top level with Real Madrid anyway. So I think all of those coaches, if they took over their national teams, could win the tournament. To give one as a preference, honestly, I'd arguably say Mourinho. Yeah, badly. Matt Bryant says, morning, James. Suffering a bit this morning after our work Xmas party yesterday. On that theme, what would you get Suj as a secret Santa, and what would you want to receive from him? I would get Suj a framed picture of Julian Dix. That's Julian Dix, to clarify. Um, and I would want him to give me a pay rise. That's it. FPL Rover says, at what point in the World Cup would you start being concerned about players remaining affecting FPL minutes upon return? Thanks for the question, my friend. I think I've kind of covered that under the long answer I gave from Salmon's question, but thank you for that, mate. John Hughes says, FPL question, would you go with Kulusevski and Pereira? Like what Pereira? I'm not even joking. Or Almiron and Rashford. They also have Saka, Maddison and Salah. Like what Pereira? Oh, I suppose it's Andreas Pereira, isn't it? It's got to be. I'd probably be the Almiron Rashford route, I think. John Hughes, his score predictions for World Cup quarterfinals. They've been going around on the screen, but for benefit those on the audio, 2-0 Brazil and 2-0 Portugal, Argentina and Netherlands 0-0, France, England 1-1. I'm going to say Holland and England on penalties. Lee Jackson says, like Asil said above, interested about your thoughts on the Cancelo dropping. I think that's been forgotten by many, given Ronaldo hogging the headlines. I don't think, certainly in the group stage, we didn't see the Cancelo that plays for Manchester City. Very, very true. And I think Dalot and Guerrero offer different qualities. I mean, Cancelo, I've been very critical of him defensively, but he's one of the best fullbacks around. But Guerrero and Dalot offer something very different, where I think what they did a lot during the game against Switzerland was dropping William Carvalho in, and teams are functioning where they're moving towards a back three in possession. Lots are doing it very, very differently. So, for example, England against Senegal moved Luke Shaw really high and tucked Cole Walker inside. Portugal's way of doing it is dropping William Carvalho in between the two centre-backs and then pushing the two full-backs really high, which is kind of a more conventional, more traditional way of doing it. This imbalance that teams have is a newer trend over the last few years, where you're having one-sided bias and fullbacks coming in inverted. So I think with that, with Carvalho dropping in deep, Santos wanted two fullbacks that could really do the touchline and bomb on. And we do think of Cancelo as being that player, but really, he's a creative player, isn't he? He's a creative player. If you look at Guerrero for the fourth goal, Dalot on, I want to say, the third goal, there's no guarantee that Cancelo's in either of them positions. I definitely don't think he ends up in that position probably for Guerrero's goal. Perhaps for Dalot's assist he does. So I think it's part strategy, to be honest, Lee. Part strategy. But yeah, I was obviously surprised to see he wasn't in the team. Abilash says, if you still had the power captainship in the official game, would you use it this week or in the semis instead? I do still have it. And my plan is the semis, personally. I think in Brazil today and options tomorrow, there's enough to think I could probably find a captaincy return, let me say, this week. At semi-finals, I mean, if you end up with Portugal, France and Brazil, Argentina, I'd probably still favour Brazil again, but I think it becomes unpredictable. I think I saw the statistic that in the last 3 Brazil-Argentina games, there's only been 2 goals scored. So it is commonly a low-scoring game. You could obviously captain defensive players, but then if it's just a clean sheet in the FIFA game, then it's not a haul, is it? So you're looking for the random one that goes off, I think. So, yeah, I'm not going to use it this week. I'm going to use it in the semis. Louis says, how are you feeling about tomorrow's game? Some of you might remember I spoke after I think before the Wales game, maybe. Might have even been after the Wales game, where I spoke about jeopardy and needing jeopardy to feel like the tournament was alive. And I haven't felt it yet, but just the prospect of playing France is jeopardy. So we're here now. It's kind of where it starts. And it is fair again to say if England do badly and get well beat tomorrow, which England could obviously play very well and get beat, it is fair to say, should England be beating Iran, Wales, and Senegal? Yeah, of course we should, absolutely. So the tournament really starts now. This is the game where a lot of people suspected it would come down to this. What I would say is I think most English fans probably feel more confident about tomorrow than they would have done knowing pre-tournament we were going to. I think if you'd have said to an Englishman pre-tournament, you're going to play France in the quarterfinals, I think more people would have said pre-tournament will get beat than what would predict now. Now, there is the emotion in that, the adrenaline's kicking in, the excitement, etc. But I think it's part of what we've seen from England, being happy with the system. Jude Bellingham's performance is really important in that. And also that France don't look spectacular. Kylian Mbappe does, but France otherwise don't look spectacular. France look like they can be hurt. And I don't think we've necessarily felt that in the past going into big games. I think we feel we have a mentality issue where we always feel like we'll lose the big one. But I think we can all sense, and I think most people can feel it, it's not to say we're going to win. Most of us think we can hurt them tomorrow. So the only real feeling I have right now, Louis, is excited. I'm really looking forward to it, which is good. It's a massive game. If we don't win, then we don't win, and life carries on. And if we win, we will probably walk into possibly, and I wouldn't have thought I'd be saying this last week, but if we do win, we might be walking into an even tougher game in the semi-final if it is to beat Portugal. I wouldn't see England beating Brazil at the moment. So, look, let's give it our best shot. Let's go for it. I'm looking forward to it. I think the nearer it gets, the fear takes over. So in the hours leading up to kick-off, it won't be excitement. It will just be fear. And then the game starts and you're in it, and then you try and, I'd say, enjoy the moment. You don't so much, but you're in it. You concentrate and focus on the game. I just want it to get started. It can be tough being the last one to go on from a fan perspective. Brainclough says, FIFA rakes more skill. Terrific, mate. Ben Keane, what's your preference between Brazil attack or defence today? Again, I don't know what game you're asking for, but probably attack. FPL Spartan says, but again, it's circumstantial. So if you reference that back to Sky, if you're trying to hang on to what you've got in terms of positioning, maybe it's defensive, for example. FPL Spartan says, morning, James. If Brazil and Argentina both win today, are you more likely to use all three transfers on Portugal players tomorrow? So, to be honest, the best option for me probably at this moment looks like Dembele, Bellingham, Pepe, and a split, because I just cannot make it work to get Bruno Fernandes. I'm not dropping Messi or Neymar when they're playing each other on Tuesday. I just don't think that's right. I can move one of them on Wednesday, and I'd arguably probably move on the winner rather than the loser, by the way. Particularly if Argentina lost, because I think Messi would play the third, fourth player. Yeah, that's the most likely for me. I just can't. I can't get clean transfers if I go for Bruno Fernandes. The one I'd like is the one that might make it out. If, say, Rafael Leao is in that Portugal team tomorrow, which I'm not expecting he is, but if suddenly he was, bang, that's the punt and go in, and then it might be 3 Portuguese players for me, yeah. It still wouldn't be Bruno Fernandes, though, I don't think. James Hurd says, if you had to have £1,000 on one team to win the tournament from here, who would it be? Brazil. Lin Tian Bao says, hey, James, who do you fancy keeping a clean sheet more this time, Portugal or Brazil? Cheers. Both, actually. But I think probably Portugal. I think. Morocco's XG across the 4 games is low. It's really low. I think it's less than 2 across their 4 games. Forgive me if I've got that wrong, but I'm sure that's what I've seen. So it's probably Portugal. Brad says, good morning, mate. I hope you're well, Brad Lewington. Says, who do you think Matt Doherty wants to win tomorrow? A video I saw on Spurs Challenge this morning tells me he wants them both to lose. I don't know. I was going to say England for his teammates. I imagine, and it's not to say that everyone feels this way, but I imagine as an Irishman, he probably wants France to win. Callum says, has Switzerland's disastrous move to a back 3 cemented the idea even further that Southgate should stick with a 4? No, I don't think it's. I don't think what happens to one team's necessarily relevant to another, mate. I think England should. The more I've thought about it, and I did some analysis on Henderson and Bellingham for advanced tiers yesterday. I'm going to do a bit of analysis on France with and without the ball today. I think it's actually it comes down to England can dominate the game with a midfield three, and they can't with a two. I think it more comes down to that is more important actually, and I think Henderson's role to go and help Walker, and obviously Saka will chip in there, no doubt. Saka has to play. I'm not saying can deal with Mbappe, of course not, but can certainly alleviate the problem where it forces it onto someone else. But then to force it onto someone else, if Henderson's got to be coming across, or Bellingham if it's just a two, you're leaving the other midfielder so exposed because they'll just go from side to side. Rabiot's a decent footballer. Griezmann's playing ever so well in this deeper role. And Dembele is still absolutely a threat. One-on-one, he can definitely do Luke Shaw for pace. He's a decent finisher. He's a decent finisher. He can be hit and miss, but let's say that he's capable. You can't just go into Mbappe. And I think the best strategy for England is 4-3-3. What needs to happen is Henderson and Bellingham have got to play deeper than what they played against Senegal. If they play in the starting positions as high as they did against Senegal, I think we will get done really badly. Let me put it that way. Because I think on turnovers, there were one or two in the first half. France won't miss the opportunities. And when I say miss the opportunities, I don't mean goal-scoring opportunities. I mean the opportunity to make the right pass that will get Mbappe in or get Dembele in, for example. Senegal missed those opportunities of the right pass. France won't. So they've got to play deeper, more like a flatter three. Rice can still anchor it, and they can still go and press. So if they're sitting off, Henderson and Bellingham can still go and press into Rabiot or Griezmann, or one of them can even go and press into Tchouameni. I think I'd rather try and get Harry Kane around Tchouameni though. But if they start in the higher positions, it was more like a 4-1-4-1. I think you'll find it be a very high scoring game, and I think France would win that. So 4-3-3. Flatter midfield three. Ian Parent says, morning, James. First time I've caught one of these live. On a scale of poor to fantastic, how do you rate tomorrow's commentator, Matterface, and summariser Dixon duo? Can we just have Tilsley and McCoist? I don't care that Ali McCoist is Scottish. Put him on the commentary of the England game. It's fine. And this is absolutely fine. Lee Dixon is he's okay. I don't, with respect to Sam Matterface, know how that he's the first choice anchor for that. I don't. I truly don't. I don't dislike him in the way many do, but how he's the number one guy that ITV can pick, I don't know. And also, interestingly, I don't know what the deals are with, say, Sky and BT commentators, for example. But yet, analysis from Sky and BT come and do the World Cups for BBC and ITV. We don't seem to get the top commentators do it. I don't know if that's because they get signed up by overseas broadcasters or something. But I'm absolutely certain, I'm not saying Martin Tyler's the best, for example, but I'm sure Martin Tyler will be commentating for someone. It seems surprised that BBC or ITV have never had these sort of people on board, actually, interestingly. Yeah, Clive Tilsley and Ali McCoist plays, but whatever. Ian Parent says, my rating would be horrendous and woeful respect. I didn't actually give you a rating, so I'm just going to agree with that, Ian. Sam Baxendale says, God, I've been going on a bit, haven't I? I'll wrap these up quick. Sam Baxendale says, saw a Carragher column, and he said, if England win tomorrow, it will be the greatest England result since the World Cup final in '66, and I think he's probably right. What's your view? Well, I don't want to ruin the trivia question now, but let me, this is me just placating the 20 patrons who haven't listened to the quiz yet. The only team we've beaten in a World Cup since '66 with a higher FIFA ranking than us is Argentina in the group stage in 2002. So when you lay it out like that, arguably the answer would be yes. But it's only a quarter-final. So I think you're somewhere in between. Carl JB says, Sky Fancy, I've got 5 Brazil, 4 Argentina, but still getting another Brazil today, Vinicius Junior or Rafinha. The transfer would be to lose Spain. Do you think having a lot of Friday players should stop me making a transfer today. No, as I said earlier, Cole, the discussion that you guys were having on Slack yesterday was great, but it is circumstantial. So if I could get to Vinicius Junior today, I would do it. You can, I would do it. Would be my take. Rafinha won't work for me either, by the way. Literally, the only one that would work for me, I could consider maybe is Danilo. He just doesn't work for me structurally to consider anything else. So I'm going to leave it. If I could get to Vinicius Junior and be happy with my 2 other transfers tomorrow, I would do it. So, I mean, like, I would have to make 2 transfers to get Vinicius Junior in today. So I'd have to pair him with a Casemiro, I was saying, and it would leave me getting a defender I don't want tomorrow. So it doesn't work. For you, if it works, yeah, I would do it, mate. Ivan Markovic says, hi, James. Hope you're well. You reckon both Saka and Foden start again tomorrow? Yes. Yeah. Saka literally has to. I'm not joking. He absolutely has to play, and that's from the defensive perspective as much as the offensive. I would be extremely surprised if Phil Foden didn't start. I think the only question mark on the team is if Trippier comes in and he changes the system. Otherwise, it'll be the same team. And just on that, one of the things that if England do pick the same system, they can change within game. You can drop Saka into wing back and move Walker into right-sided centre-back with the same personnel. Might not be ideal, but you can do it. And I think that's another really important reason, again, why Saka has to start. Richard Sleeman says, who is your most trusted England penalty taker besides Kane? Good question. Ivan Toney. To be honest, the name that is springing to mind is Kieran Trippier. I'd fancy Trips. I remember when Trips went up against Colombia in 2018, where people were like, oh my God, what's Trippier? I wasn't worried about Trips. Technically really good from dead ball situation. We know that now. People didn't know that. And Trips, I'd really trust Trips if he went up. I mean, he'll just put his foot down and put it top bin. Although he missed in the Euro final, maybe Rashford. And you've got to think that it may come down to the likes of Rashford, Mason Mount. These players may be on the pitch later in the game, for example, if it goes all the way. Maybe Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire took a great one in the Euro final, didn't he? Relic returns says, does Gabriel Jesus' injury effectively end any faint title chances Arsenal might have had? No, it doesn't. It's obviously a blow, but I will put that question to Adam Pritchard next Friday on Clash of the Correspondents, Arsenal versus West Ham with Adam Pritchard, Chris Stone. I can confirm Tuesday Clash of the Correspondents, Crystal Palace versus Fulham with Mig Tavius and Dara Curran for you as well. Paul Murray says, Martin Tyler is doing the commentary for SBS in Australia. Thank you, Paul. I knew he'd be doing it for someone. Joe Finley Bader says, hi, James. Opinion on Rodri saying Morocco offered nothing and just waited for counter-attacks. Complete nonsense, mate. It's just bitterness. And congratulations, Joe. And I wish you the very, very best of luck tomorrow, mate. You've proved us wrong several times. Go and do it again. Good luck. Right, as said, patron watch along Brazil versus Croatia, myself and Suj today for advanced and intermediate tier patrons. If you want to support the show, www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. Our Patreon content will be returning to a more normal feel next week with podcasts such as Tottenham returning. If you'd like to support the show, you can. And every patron who is with us before the end of the month will be getting a boost up to the next tier level in January. Next week, as I said, Suj will be joining me on Monday for more of a FPL kind of weekend review of the World Cup quarterfinals. Tuesday and Friday, Clash of Correspondents, Palace versus Fulham and Arsenal, West Ham, respectively. I haven't quite decided on Wednesday and Thursday as yet. That may be dependent on what England do on Sunday, but we'll communicate what's happening for you on Monday, no doubt. But just leaves me to say thanks very much for those who joined in live on the stream. Hit a like, hit the sub button, and for the benefit of those on the audio cue music, please, Manchild.